What's up, guys? Today in the shop we are doing some mid-season changes on Turbo John's car, so stick around and you'll see what we got going on. Alright guys, well it is Monday after Dig or Die. That was just at 710 Dragway this past weekend. There's a couple things that we're going to do to John's car before he goes back out for the next race. Biggest thing to address is the stuff in the rear. We're going to put a wing on the car. We are going to add a couple bars in here. I guess I'm going to add a couple bars back here to add more weight. We're kind of limited on space and we can't fit any more weight back here effectively, so we're going to do that. We might be ditching the carbon fiber back here as well, so there's a couple things we're gonna have to adjust on that. So first things first, we're gonna have to get all this, I don't know, 480 pounds I think is what we tallied it up to. There's 480 pounds in the trunk, so we're gonna have to remove all of that. Okay, so for the back, I'm going to remove this crossbar, relocate the transmission cooler, and then add a bar in the center here that will clear the puke tank so we don't have to drill holes in the deck lid and everything else like that. So, or make new lines or anything like that. So transmission cooler going to get relocated and we'll get on that. All right, so what we decided to do was I got 3 mounting locations for the weights in the back here. All the weights are the same size. They're 15 by 5.25 by 1.5 inches thick, basically the size of a 2x6, cut 15 inches, long. So we can stack 3 to 4 on each spot. So we can stack 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. There's 2 on each of these studs, and then we can do 1 and 1. So 15 pretty easily. We can maybe add some more. So there's easily a chance to put 1,000 pounds of lead back here if we absolutely had to. So what I'm going to do is these standoffs that I've got here, I'm actually going to weld in. What did I put the piece? Anyways, weld a nut inside of here so we can thread some all thread in and then slide the weights on and then use a nut on the back side. So, because sometimes like the way that it was set up here is we're trying to hold a 60-pound weight and then thread a bolt in. And then when you pull the bolt out, if it drops through, the carbon floor was really thin right here. So it was almost like wanting to fall through the floor just because of how heavy the weight is. So it's going to be easier to use all thread and then nut that instead of trying to do any kind of bolt through situation.
0, 1, 2, 3. Let's get started.
stopping me.
Okay, now we have basically the standoffs welded to the tubes where they're going to go in. It was just easier to weld the nut to the standoff and the standoff to the tube out of the car on the bench because I'm lazy. But the next thing I do is obviously we'll get the bars welded in, and then I'm going to fit the trunk carbon sheet back over top of that, and then I'll come in. Actually, I might not do that because then it'll be permanent. We'll see what we're going to do with trimming that out, but these are going to get basically welded on to the very top of that like that, so that way when you go to tighten down the weights, the tube itself doesn't try to wedge itself inside the hole, because some of the holes are bigger than others, like that. And because the lead is so soft, I had a couple instances like trying to pull the nut off and it embeds itself into the weight, so it's kind of hard to get off of there, and you don't want to have to try to mess with that. So yeah, we'll put a little flat face on there so that way it doesn't dig into the chunks of lead. All right, now you can kind of see how much weight we can actually put in the trunk of this car. Right now these are 60-pound blocks. There was 4 of them hanging underneath, and now we have provisions that we could technically stack these 4 high and have 12 more in the center. And then we have bar clamps for the outside, so we could put 2 more. So we could put 18 60-pound weights in the trunk of this car as it sits right now, if we had the weight. I don't think we have that much weight, but we could. It's a little over. It's like 1,100 pounds of lead on that. And then on top of that, I think there's a couple other spaces. We could probably add some 25-pound slabs to the edges as well. So I mean, there's probably a possibility that there could be 1,200 pounds of lead in the back of this car, which is absurd in all honesty, but it's kind of what is needed for how light this car is in the back, for the backside no prep stuff. So changes pretty much finished up here. I got to get underneath and weld the bars from the bottom side and then finish out the trunk tin work. I will probably put the carbon pieces back in here, and then I might just sheet metal that in just because it's going to be nearly impossible to get it. It's pretty cool. Trucks decided to stop by the shop today. Okay, so now that we can add 1,000 pounds of weight to the trunk, we're going to put a big old wing on the back. Basically, I've got this large airfoil wing. I think it's called from Wing Logic. Pretty big old thing. It's supposed to add 800 pounds of downforce at 10 degrees, so we'll see. Whatever. It's going to be telescoping. I've got some 1.5" 095 wall and then an 1.25" 120 wall. And basically that is going to be our telescoping slides. There'll be two uprights that'll come up, rod ends with a clevis that mounts on the front side, and then on the back side there will be another clevis. It'll basically be, let's just, for example, an adjustable rod on the back. This will go on one side, this on the other, and then on the front like this, so that way we can adjust the angle if need be. More angle, more drag, but also more downforce. So, you know, there'll be times where you might not need it all. Radial prep surfaces, I mean, you could completely take it off too. We'll make it so we can adjust the height from about 3 inches, maybe a little higher, minimum height, only because you gotta have clearance to put all these rods and stuff. So might not be able to get it exactly 3 inches off, but we'll get it close, and then we can slide it all the way up. We'll have some little pins that you can pull out and get that aligned. So let's get set up and start building. All right, so we did a lot of work on the back here today. We've got the uprights for the wing. I welded on partially the tabs of the inside of this, so that's on there. These will be able to telescope out about 2 feet. These The stubs are about 12 to 14 inches. I don't remember the exact length long. So that way when we extend them out, this wing can actually get a little more height to it and be about, you know, 1.5 feet taller than it is now. So we'll see how that is beneficial on the back side of the stuff. But that's it for today. We'll come in first thing in the morning and we'll get it wrapped up. We've got to make the adjustable. So we'll cut down this tube just a little bit so that way I have a tab that I can weld on there, and then the adjusters will come off of that tab there. So that way we can tilt the wing up and down to get the right degrees. This is a Wing Logic, if I do believe, is the brand. They have some data and some charts with the degrees of pitch and how much downforce it adds per mile per hour. So at 10 degrees of pitch, at 170 miles an hour, I believe, it's like 800 pounds of downforce that this wing will supposedly put down. So if we can get away with not adding the weight in the trunk, like I said, and using air as downforce instead of weight as downforce, the car should be much quicker and much safer. So that's it for today. We'll see you guys in the morning. All right, guys. Well, I got everything done on there in the back of the trunk. I'm trying to fit this carbon piece over all these tubes. There's like 1,000 holes in and out of lineup, so this is a pain in the butt, but we're getting there and it should go in there. I got the bottom of all this painted up so it won't rust, and then once I get this down, I'll finish painting. But it's all done on there. The wing all welded up over here, the adjustable struts and all that other stuff. So we'll get this painted in. We still have to drill the fixed pins on the different positions on there. So we'll have to drill through the sleeve and get that on there. So coming along pretty good. As soon as this paint dries and I get this trunk floor back down, we'll get it all back together and you can see what it looks like all done. All right, now you can kind of see we've got the spill plates on there. Wang Logic. Everything's painted, tidied up, all the bolts back in it. I went ahead and also I put 2 little Zeus fasteners in the back bumper like I was talking about. It was kind of flimsy, so we just reinforced that. We're about to put the deck lid on. You see we got everything trimmed out in there. Looks pretty good. So all we got left to do is put this deck lid back on, and we're gonna satin black this. We just don't have the time for it to paint and cure because we don't have to prime it because it's aluminum. So prime, paint, clear, and do whatever. There's not enough time for it to be done and then be put on the car and car put back together, loaded up in the trailer to be ready to go for tomorrow. So we'll just be bare wing until the car gets painted, and that's probably fine. We don't want to spray bomb that because it's just going to ruin it. So yep, we'll get the deck lid back on and the door back on, and then the front end's coming out of the spray booth. I've already put the quarter turn fasteners back in it, so all we have to do is mount it back on the car and we're ready to go. This weekend, the hood is not going to be attached to the car. Just some of the thicknesses on the panels. We are running into some issues where we need like 800,000 length grip fasteners for it to actually grip and lock into the quarter turn spring. So because the panels are like 1/4 inch thick each, that's like 1/2 inch plus the 3/8 that the spring depth is, and I could shrink that up to maybe like 3/6, like half the distance maybe. So we're going to be looking around like some 750s, some 3/4 inch quarter turns to do that. So the car will be out there at Coastal Plains with everything but the hood. The hood is painted. It just we don't have the right depth fasteners, and I really need to measure it once all the primer, paint, clear coats all on there on both panels, so that way I can get my true depth. Like I said, it was like around 0.75, 0.800 when I was checking with the micrometer or the depth gauge or whatever you want to call that caliper. So cool. So let's get this deck lid on and get her loaded up. Boom, deck lid came out awesome. I was skeptical about this style wing at first, but now that it's on there and just the way that we did it, it was John's idea how he wanted it, and I just kind of made it happen. So it looks great. It's really really similar to the last car, the one that wrecked and everything, but it's a little bit shorter down, a little bit more adjustability. I trimmed all this out so we wouldn't have any binding or anything like that, so it worked out great. This looks really good. So really pleased with it. I'm really excited to see how it does at the track, so make sure we go check that out tomorrow. Coastal Plains, gates open at 9, track hot at 10:30. Come on out and see us.